I think we shall start the meeting.
Yeah.
Just a second, and I hope you can see my screen, sir.
Yes,
It's
sir.
an Impact Lecture Series 2. It is by Center for Skill Development at Rajamahendravaram, and it is by the initiative of the Ministry of Education, Institutional Innovation Council, and it is sponsored by the Ministry of Education. It is partially funded by the Ministry of Education. In fact, it is the second of this series. The first one we had 10 days before on the impact lecture on the entrepreneurship, and this is second of the series, and it is the most matured of the earlier series. And mainly, let me tell you, like this is presented by the four speakers. One, Dr. Suryanarayan Raju, who would be speaking on entrepreneurship ecosystem, and second by Mr. Madhusudan Junjunwala on Atmanirbhar Bharat and how the dream can be achieved, and through Atmanirbhar Nagrik. And third presenter would be, the star presenter would be of this afternoon is Sri Prabhakar Chaurasia Sir, and he would be talking on entrepreneurship opportunities, innovation opportunities in the industry, and what is the need for the skill development and what all the skills to be developed. And finally, we'll have a sum up by Professor K.L.N. Raju sir, and he would be emphasizing on the support to the entrepreneurship from the Government of India, what all the schemes available, and how the entrepreneurship should be looked into, what all the areas for the innovation, and so on. And my other colleague, Mr. Sairam, would be joining in moderating this session. And I shall move on, and I thank you all this afternoon for participating in this impact lecture series. In fact, this should be carried to the various educational institutions, industries, and the students and the aspirants of the entrepreneurship. And how shall Center for Skill Development, along with the consortium of the institutions like GSPS, Car Energy, and Auto Apps, and all these institutions, how we can come together and realizing the national mission. And this afternoon, I would be taking privilege of introducing the first speaker, Professor Dr. Suryanarayan Raju on entrepreneurship ecosystem. And Professor Suryanarayan Raju Garu has been a principal, and he has been working various capacities. And he is a doctorate from the prestigious REC, like earlier it is Regional Engineering College, now it is National Institute of Technology, Warangal. In fact, he's a he's a professor from reputed institutions, and post that he is having a ample of research experience, more than 27 years, and having a teaching experience of more than 25 years in various capacities. He is an able administrator. He is having 2 decades of experience in administering the reputed educational institutions. Like he made right from the concept to the commission, like a scratch to the reputed institutions. He has been very instrumental in getting the NAC recognition to the various engineering colleges, and he has been knowing in and out of the institutions and what is the need for the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And he has been conferred with a lot of awards at nationally, internationally from the reputed bodies, and he is one of the very eminent person known in the academia. And his contacts reaches into the different universities and also the statutory bodies like NAC, UGC, and AICTE. Thank you, Suryanarayan Raju Garu, for being here, and I wish you can enlighten your experience. And how do you feel the entrepreneurship is necessary in the educational institutions, and how do we really develop that entrepreneurship ecosystem?
Thank you, sir.
Over to you, Raju sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Rudra Garu, for your excellent introduction to me. At the outset, I am so happy to congratulate your CSD, our CSD, for promoting this kind of excellent activities. And one among such better activities, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And it's very happy for having a kind of very good association with you. to participate in this kind of activities. And thank you so much. And good afternoon, all the excellent and eminent speakers present in this particular Impact Series 2. And very good afternoon to all the faculty members and students and other members presenting and being participated in future for this kind of impact lectures. So as a part of this impact lecture series, actually it is my fortunate enough to participate and present a talk on entrepreneurship ecosystem in higher educational institutions as a part of impact lecture series 2 on entrepreneurship as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Atmanirbhar Nagarik session. It is a kind of very brief session as I'm going to give in this particular series, as we have very good lectures being followed by me. Atmanirbhar Bharat, as everyone knows, this is the need of the day in India. In particular, after 2019 COVID, the Indian government has taken, under the able guidance of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, to have our self-sustainment. That's what we call Atmanirbhar Bharat. That means even in future we can expect, or we're not sure that we're not going to have any kind of calamities as we have this COVID. That's why we need to have our own sustainment. We need to have our own base. That's what we call this Atmanirbhar Bharat, for which we need to have our self-reliance, self-sustainment, and self-empowerment. And to have this kind of continual implementation of all these three as Atmanirbhar Bharat, we need to continually promote innovation and incubation. These two I's are very important for our Atmanirbhar Bharat. Yes, you all know the importance of entrepreneurship, and fundamentally, these three are the very important stakes as far as the purpose of entrepreneurship is concerned. First one is social impact. Like as you all see, because of this COVID-19, many of the people lost their jobs, and many of the people, not only in India, throughout the world, the situation happened like this. But of course, we are concentrating more on India because India is in most of the things, like around 85 to 90% in India, the population is highly based on this kind of jobs or some sort of livelihood to work something else or to work with others. Because of this COVID, it has huge impact. Many of the people lost their jobs, so it had a huge impact on their livelihood. So to have such kind of impact, to minimize such kind of negative impact on the social, this entrepreneurship will count a lot, because of this entrepreneurship, everybody, most of the people will try to have their own stand, so which will definitely count a lot when compared to the previous situation. The second one is economic growth, because this entrepreneurship provides a lot of employability. So huge population will get jobs, and they will get their own money, and everybody will be tax payable, and they will pay a lot of amount by means of their tax. There will be a lot of services, maybe the marketing, and there is a huge, like in chartered accountants, lot of things will be incurred in this particular aspect. So obviously there will be the huge growth in economy as far as the country is concerned. And another important thing is it has a very better strategic value. Strategic value in the sense, and every service or product, whatever we are going to have, definitely it will have a typical plan. Like, let us say, for example, for the previous system, even right now it's going on, the generation of vaccines, providing lot of services, medical equipment, there was a huge lot of strategic plan and strategic value. It counts a lot. So all these three important factors are the real purposes as far as this kind of entrepreneurship is concerned. Yes. Now let us come for these higher education institutions. What is the purpose to promote this entrepreneurship in higher education institutions? As we all know, the higher educational institutions are the real learning zones of knowledge and skill. And these are the basis for the future prosper of either individual, any institute, or any country. So that is why we should have more focus on higher educational institutions. But of course, in India is so great in, or of course up to some extent, that if you look at our tier 1 institutions like IITs, IIMs, ISC, even NITs, they are working better as far as this kind of entrepreneurship is concerned. But however, there should be the better sensitization as far as the tier 2 and tier 3 institutions are concerned towards this entrepreneurship. So here I'm going to have two important stakes like students and parents. Once if you look at this kind of students perspective, there are two options. First one is entrepreneur, second one is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur means the students will be expecting a better job in better MNC or any public sector, whatever it may be, so that in case they will get their dream job, they will be dedicating themselves so that they can feel that the company or any kind of organization where they are working is their own, and they will be working like. Or else there is another case that they can also have some sort of challenges that they can start their own business, they can start their own enterprise. Both the things are there. These are the options for students. But however, if you look at this kind of parents, it is almost in 95%, it is different. Like always, they want to be in safe mode. Like they don't want to pay any kind of risk as far as their wards, maybe their son or daughter is concerned. Soon after the completion of their studies, they want to get some better settlement. They feel that the settlement is some job, maybe the 9 to 5 working hours job, because they don't want to pay risk. So these are the two different perspectives. So because of this, because this kind of parent perspective is also having a kind of better over influence on almost 95% of the students, this is the situation where in fact we need to sensitize this particular higher educational institutions prime stakeholders, the students and parents. Yes, how we can design this ecosystem in higher education institutions, and what is the need for this deciding? Absolutely, as I was already telling, the proper sensitization is very much required. As everyone knows, necessity is mother for invention, and we should sensitize the students that challenges are origin for innovation. The best example, we have beautiful count, even oxygen concentrators, the prime mode ventilators, different modes of biomass, something like what we have generated, different kinds of very innovative vaccines and all we generated very recently because of this COVID. Because we had a challenge, we innovated. Like that, all these challenges we should take and we should promote our innovation. And these challenges must be considered as origin for innovation in our higher education system. Another important thing is that we should focus, there are so many factors as far as economic growth of any country or globe is concerned. But as far as educational institutions are concerned, two prime things we should concentrate and we should focus. First thing is innovations, second one is intellectual property rights. Both are having very excellent capability as far as the growth of economy of individual, institute, and of course the country is concerned. Yes, another important thing and another purpose for designing higher educational institutions is that we should have a typical concept of lab to market issue. Like what in fact I'm telling is like kind of lab. If you look at any kind of educational institutions, lot of discussions by means of theory will be discussing, and lot of discussions will go on as far as laboratory, lot of experiments like practice experiments, design experiments, and newborn experiments like research kind of experiments will be basically carried out in the laboratory. Because of this, a lot of science, a lot of technology, or a lot of new knowledge is being generated in the laboratories. There is a lot of scope. If we can properly utilize this kind of generated things, and we will be in a position to take this all these kind of aspects to the market, then it will be a successful thing as far as higher education institutions are concerned. So here I'm telling three important aspects like the technology transfer. Whatever the good piece of technology we are generating in the institution, most of the things in second tier and third tier institutions, they'll be concentrating more on academic curriculum, what is being designed by the institutions like universities, their affiliated universities or autonomous bodies. But thing is here, though they are being affiliated absolutely to this kind of prescribed syllabi and all, there is a lot of chance to innovatively design, innovatively derive some sort of new technologies or scientific pieces of knowledge. So these kind of new derived pieces of knowledge will definitely be useful to purposefully solve some sort of issues in the industries. So that is why the industries should be taken into the consideration. The academic institution should have a kind of idea that their knowledge or their technology being generated in the institutions are really applicable, they are useful for the industries, so that they can think that their technology or pieces of knowledge being generated may be transferred to this kind of industries. Second one is licenses. So these are all coming under innovations. So they can also, whatever this kind of innovation or different kind of technology generated in the institution, they should try for licenses. Whatever it can is, let us say, if they can transfer the technology, they will get the license. Obviously, they will get a lot of royalty and arrangements. So these are all nothing but the marketing their knowledge, marketing their technology. And another important thing is at the moment, in the just a kind of extension to this is the startups, and where from these kind of startups they can lead for entrepreneurship and they can lead for new venture creations. So these are some of the few very important focusing areas at the present moment. Even if you look at this kind of health issues, like even though we had some sort of almost 2 years, what happened this COVID-19, lot of things like post-COVID impact, something like everything is being happening. So health issues are very important, and agriculture aspects, environmental issues, environmental is greenhouse concern, and the green empowerment enhancement, and the safety precautions for food, e-commerce, which is a very very important and a very proven zone of success. Next, at the present moment, online learning, lot of typical solutions are required, because online learning is being on how best we are at online assessment, how best we are at online evaluation. These are all very important things where in fact we can generate an automation. And of course, maybe for about 20 to 30 years at least, the automation is going to play a vital role. So these are all the very focus areas. Whatever, if you look at this, any kind of higher education institutions, maybe aligned with the science, maybe aligned with the technology, pharmacy, whatever it may be, and all these things will have direct relevance, directly or almost partially directly relevance in this kind of this focus issues, so that they can have a lot of chance to work on how best we can converge, or how can we can integrate our kind of works being taken place in our laboratories to these focus areas. So like that, we can sensitize the higher education institutions, or higher education institutions should think of in such a way that whatever we are doing, it is not just the syllabus, it is not just the curriculum. We are really working for real time problems, just with small modifications. So this is the highly need for developing a kind of, or designing an ecosystem in higher education institutions. Yes, these are all the possible suggestions to develop the ecosystem, the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the educational institutions. First thing, we should believe and we should sensitize the institutions that all the students and staff must believe that they are the real reservoirs for entrepreneurship skills, because they have everything and they can only do this, and they are the prime for developing any kind of ecosystem. Next one, academic institutions must be given some sort of flexible as far as this kind of designing policies with respect to this kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem design is concerned. This is very much important, like their attendance regulations, a bit change must be taken place in the institutions, which is happening in tier 1 institutions. Next one, improvise experiential learning in teaching pedagogy. This is very important. Mostly, if you look at this kind of our curriculum and all, almost 75% we are focusing on theory, where the students will be focusing with respect to this kind of four walls, 25% with the experimentation and all. But there should be some sort of change in this kind of pedagogy in such a way that the students must be exposed to outside the classroom, to outside the campus. Like they should be given permission and they should be continuously promoted for taking internships in industry, in government, or any kind of society, and they should be given continual projects and all. Like that they should be given more chance, and there should be some sort of individual improvement in the experiential learning as far as the students are concerned. This should be very, very important. And another thing is that every student or every faculty member and every institution does require a kind of better mentoring, because this innovation and incubation are not confined to any kind of wall. That is why we should accept some sort of NITs. We should go on our own, or we should invite them like IITs, NITs, IASC, centers of excellence. There are so many centers of excellence and R&D organizations. And for the last 5 years, so many incubation centers have also been developed, so that they should have a kind of better collaboration with these kind of institutions for getting some better mentorship, because this mentor-mentee interaction is very important to promote this kind of ecosystem. Next one, continuously the institution should provide the student activities via this kind of entrepreneurship cell. Like they should organize the hackathons, something like if they can conduct the activities and all, the students will have nurturing, special nurturing skills among this. Next one, institutions should provide more interactive sessions with industry experts, venture capitalists, or some sort of real entrepreneurs, existed entrepreneurs. And apart from that, there should be a kind of facility with respect to the subject to have the continual visit to the industries. Because do not think that industries are not having any kind of problem. Industries are having a lot of problems. These industries are obviously trying to meet the R&D organizations to get some sort of solutions. Mostly, if you look at this kind of industry institution interaction, it is very one of the important aspects as far as any institution is concerned. But always institutions will try to go to the industry for kind of some sort of interaction and the student exposure. But at the same time, institutions should also recognize the fact that industries are also expecting a lot of help from the institutions by means of training the faculty, like underqualified faculty members, or some sort of quality enhancement of this kind of staff in the industries on their real-time problems. So for these kind of things, the institution should visit the industries. They should try to get some sort of problems. They should try to improvise their experiential learning to provide the solution for these kind of problems. So if such kind of interactive sessions, visits for the industries are happening, that will really help this kind of developing and designing this ecosystem. Next one, another important thing is whatever the knowledge we are having as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, our knowledge, our should be considered as a goods for commercialization. So, and nothing to say, nothing wrong in making our faculty members to promote this kind of commercialization and entrepreneurship shifts as far as the students are concerned. Thus, why faculty should lead this kind of activities. Another important thing is alumni is one of the biggest support for any kind of institution, and as this alumni must have support settled bestware or are doing some better activities, maybe in industry or government organization and society, something like that. These they try to get this help from the alumni to design this kind of startups in this kind of institution. Next one, there should be a continual implementation, organizing this kind of innovation centers or ideation incubations. Idea should be incubated rather than technologies. First, idea should be incubated, then we go for technology. These are very important things, and it's very fortunate that institutional innovation councils are being promoted by Institute MHRD, Minister of Higher Education, Government of India, to by means of this ISC. And I'm so fortunate the Center for Skill Development Rajahmundry is also taking very active part as far as this maintain designing innovation centers in the institution. This is very, very important. And next one is designing local innovation clusters. This is different from innovation centers. These innovation centers or idea incubation is confined to the institution, whereas these local innovation clusters, in the sense, maybe some sort of one district, there should be a kind of cluster. There are so many villages. Let us say, for example, one of the important concepts of India to promote this rural empowerment is Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. For identification of the problems, for creation of the solutions and all, we should create a kind of cluster where we can also try to culminately act this kind of different institutions, nearby institutions may act and they try to develop a kind of cluster. Because some of the institutions, it may not be possible to directly have a kind of innovation center, idea incubation center. They may not be able to having a kind of what you call this kind of typical mentoring. To promote such kind of institutions also, we need to have kind of clusters. So these designing of local innovation clusters is very, very important. It will also obviously enhance the rural people also, because even public can also participate in this, because in many times public may not be able to dare enough to directly come to the institutions to get their problems solved. Whereas if you look at this kind of clusters as at outside the institution, there is a possibility that the public may also come. They will also directly pass on their problems, what they are expecting the solutions. So this is kind of designing of these innovation clusters is also very important aspect to promote this kind of ecosystem. Next, another thing is institutions should augment this design thinking approach among the students and faculties. Like whatever we do, let us say, for example, in 21st century's case, nothing but skills, knowledge, and attitude. So these are the three important things what we generally feel that the students will be, the learners will be better satisfied as far as the industry norms or public norms. For this purpose, we need to augment this design thinking approach. For this purpose, first of all, we need to identify the real problems. There are so many problems. Problems in the sense, we need to have, let us say, for example, very huge problem. So even in and around our vicinity, maybe in the institution, maybe at our house, at our village, there are so many problems. So clearly, transparently, we should try to identify the real problems. That is very important aspect. Next one, we should analyze what are the real causes for this kind of problems. What are the real root causes for this particular problems? Typical example, I can tell you, inundation is one of the biggest problems, even top class cities in India. What is the root cause for this kind of thing? I don't want to mention this. This is the biggest problem. Now, inundation, unexpected inundation, like Bombay, Hyderabad, even if you look at this kind of Rajahmundry, if you are getting 20 minutes continual rain, obviously there is a problem of inundation. This is the real problem we are facing. At the same time, we should identify this root cause. If you are able to identify this root cause, if we analyze, then immediately we can have some sort of teamwork. We should try to have some sort of brainstorming. We should ideate how to solve this kind of problems. Next one, what is the technology we are having with us to solve this problem? If not so, we should try to appropriately identify this technology to solve this problem. Next, if you are identifying any technology or if you are using any technology, we should test whether it is being the solution for the problem. If it is not satisfying, we should modify it, we should retest. If there is any necessity to modify the things, we should go for retesting. We should, like that, optimize this kind of proper technology for the better solution. And then if you properly arrange that kind of solution, we should ensure that there should be the real satisfaction at the outside. That's what we call customer on the consumer. If you are able to design this kind of thing, then obviously we can go for commercialization. So this kind of process, any piece of knowledge which is really innovative, obviously we should try to augment this kind of design thinking approach in organizations. And altogether, whatever the system and whatever the things we discussed earlier, and altogether, I'm just telling this is the kind of augmentative influence on this kind of ecosystem. And if you look at this kind of the startup ecosystem, which is really important, this kind of organization, very much important to promote this kind of entrepreneurship ecosystem. These three six are very important factors. First one is absolute academic ecosystem, where in fact all these academic institutions, higher education institutions should try to improve their ecosystem with the existed or whatever we discussed the principles. Of course, whatever the things and maybe for about 15 points we raised, these are all very simple, and nothing is lost, and we need not pay a lot for implementing all these 15 things. Everything we can try to implement. If we can have such kind of things, that is the first issue, because this academic ecosystem is very important, and that is the prime factor. If you can design this kind of academic system, then we can obviously approach for investors and industry experts and any kind of mentors. This is feasible because they will be pleased if our academic system ecosystem is best. Then obviously they will be coming and they will be pleased to visit us. Then we can also approach the designers and manufacturers, service providers, because they will come to us, they will guide us, and at the same time we can also go there to get some sort of additional piece of knowledge, and that is another important thing. So startup associations, this is another important thing. Everybody, they will be having their own different kinds of startups because of their service development of services, development of products and all. But at the same time, all these startups should be having a kind of association, so that this multidisciplinary approach is very important. But at the same time, transdisciplinary approach is still better important when compared to multidisciplinary approach, because there will be a very common problem which may not be directly confined to any kind of sector. So obviously, if these kind of startup associations are coming forward, then obviously this transdisciplinary approach will also be coming to the more focus. And next, industries and corporates, because after all, whatever we see, the industries or corporates, they will be designing the products or services obviously for the purpose of the public only, or public purpose of the society only. The public or the society should accept their products or services, or else they will be going loose. They will be losing their kind of prosperity also. So that is why, if we are having this better academic ecosystem, industries and corporates will also come to us. This kind of interaction will really let us know what actually the public are expecting from outside, what actually the society is needing, and it will give some sort of added points to this kind of ecosystem. And then government policies and regulators, obviously now governments like state government and central government, they're enhancing the innovation councils, they're enhancing, and they're giving lot of funding projects, and of course they are also promoting the skill activities. Everything will be coming to us only when if you are having a better academic system. So if you're all having this kind of best six systems, then obviously we can have better ecosystem in the academic institution. So this is the case of augmentive influence on ecosystem. So this is what in fact I wanted to fundamentally give the aspects of how to implement, how to design this kind of ecosystem for entrepreneurship in higher educational institutions. This is not the one day activity, it is the continual activity. As content CCE, as we also say that continual comprehensive learning, continual comprehensive evaluation, the same thing will applicable for this kind of designing the ecosystem and all. So this is the journey of our Atmanirbhar Bharat. It should always continue, because innovations, these are all nothing but the creativity. Everybody is having their creativity, but only thing is how best we are making them outside. That is very important. That's what innovation. All our innovative ideas or services or products, if they are properly incubated, properly designed to commercialize, then obviously our concept of startup India, stand up India forever will obviously go on. So thank you all for visiting and kind listening to me, and I am so expecting any kind of suggestions, everything as far as this kind of presentation is concerned. I am so happy to join with many of the speakers here to just get a lot of knowledge here, and at the same time I am so happy to incorporate everything in my presentation as long as I will get all these things. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you once again for giving this opportunity to Dr. Rudra Garu as far as the CSD is concerned. I'm so happy with that. In future also, we'll be having a lot of interactive sessions like this. Thank you so much, sir. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. In fact, you emphasize it on creating the local innovation clusters, and we should take this innovation to the rural front, and also apply this design thinking concepts into the rural India and the Tier 3 cities like this. I think it's noteworthy. I think no, we shall definitely take your ideas forward. In fact, it's an initial step. I think this has been endeavor of the central government to really, percolate their ideas into the rural India. We being academicians, definitely, it's on our shoulders to take this movement forward. And you have quoted wonderful about the, starting the startup association. That's a great idea, sir.
Yes,
I think we should have, rather multi-dimensional, cross-dimensional. We should have the trans-dimensional approach. I think it's a wonderful thing as we move on. Definitely, we take your ideas really into the students, and let us see how this entrepreneurship really takes off, sir. Wonderful, sir. Now now I take the privilege in inviting Mr. Madhusudan Junjunwala, sir. In fact, Madhusudan sir and me, we have been associated more than a decade and a half in having sharing the ideas, and his idea of promoting the entrepreneurship and the L&D platform from the corporate to the academia. He has been a role model. I think a brief introduction about him. Mr. Madhusudan Junjunwala comes from an IITian background, and he's from IIT Kharagpur. And post IIT Kharagpur, he did his masters in US, and followed by a couple of programs he has attended in the Harvard. And also he had made different countries visits on the official assignments. He has been with the public sector units like SAIL and Usha Martin in various capacities, and also in the capacity of president also. And the last assignment as a chief operating officer with Videocon Group. Then he's on his own with his own company called GSBS, giving simple business solutions have been his motto. And right from the pandemic, he has coining out various innovative entrepreneurship strategies. And he has coined out how the Atmanirbhar Bharat can be percolated down to the Atmanirbhar villages and Atmanirbhar Nagrik. So how one citizen should be more responsible and in persuasion of this entrepreneurship. So wonderful to have you here, sir. I think you can take on. It's an multi-professional platform, having the professionals like Dr. Sunan Raj Garu, Madhusudan sir, and Prabhakar sir. I think we shall have this multi-dimensional. I think Raju sir also will agree. This definitely will reach to a cross and trans-dimensional area. It's over to you, sir, Madhusudan sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Rudra. Thank you. My pleasure being here. Good afternoon to all those who are participating in this program, whatever form that might be. And technology has enabled us to record this program, so this program will be perennially, eternally available to those who want to access. I have with me indeed a very great panel, and I would like to speak something about that panel first and foremost. We always talk about industry-academia interface. I think, in my opinion, if I look at the profile of people in this platform, all the four speakers and also Rudra, we represent that interface. You have heard just now Dr. Suri Narayana, who is an academician, administrative background. Very soon you will meet and you will hear Professor K.L.N. Raju, who has been a teacher turned entrepreneur. Then you have Prabhakar Chaurasia, my very good friend, who's an excellent innovation design man, whose passion is to coach and teach people, hand-holding, mentoring, I myself have become a manager turned entrepreneur and have worked in the industry for last 33 years, where I have performed my role mainly as a coach, mentor, and a trainer. So you can see, and then Rudra himself, he has come to academia after having spent good time in the industry. So needless to say, this platform basically is a very good mixture of experience and knowledge emanating from industry as well as academia. Very rightly, the first speaker was chosen to be Dr. Surya Narayana because he had to talk about the ecosystem. Because the thing is that academic institutions, starting from the pre-primary to a higher level, play a very, very vital role. And they, in fact, do create the ecosystem. Dr. Surya Narayana has set the perspective right, and I will take it from there. Before I start speaking on the subject, I must give you a background. It was last year when the pandemic started. Rudra came to me and we two decided to start a series in entrepreneurship. And we have been conducting similar such programs for last 1 year. And as you can see, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, he had a vision for the country. And when we were struck with the pandemic, with hopelessness all around, like a true leader, he coined a slogan, a program, a mission, whatever name you give, called Atmanirbhar Bharat. And since then, Atmanirbhar Bharat has been gaining currency. It is being understood by people. It is not a buzzword anymore, but it is becoming a reality. As a matter of fact, the origin of this Atmanirbhar Bharat goes back to his vision of make in India. But the larger issue of Atmanirbhar Bharat, if it has to become a reality, we need to understand as to what it means, what it wants to achieve, how it can be integrated, participated by the citizens, what are its various elements. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a vision. I wish to share with you that we have had a series of webinars which are available on this subject, in which we talked about MSME, a course of subjects. So if somebody is interested, he can go to this link on the YouTube and get more detailed insight. However, for the paucity of time and precision, in this session today, I will keep myself confined to a broad overview of what makes Atmanirbhar Bharat and what role a platform like ours is planning to play. When we said this about a year back, we were addressing the issues what role we can play. But today we are ready. What role are we going to play? Well, I think this subject of Atmanirbhar Bharat raises a few questions in the mind. Since this program is being recorded and is also getting televised through various platforms, and which has been prompted by MHRD, I would once again go back to the basics of the subject. When Atmanirbhar Bharat came, people tried to rake up a lot of controversy, and rightly so, because many a times we have many slogans, we have many buzzwords, we coin many things, and they, over a period of time, they just die, never see the light of the day. So the question was, many questions people asked at that point of time, what is this Atmanirbhar Bharat? Why all of a sudden, when the country is struggling with a pandemic, why it has become so important? Remember, pandemic COVID-19 was one part of the whole problem. The larger issue and offshoot of that problem was global disruption of a global supply chain, which was utterly, unfairly dependent on China. And we saw that when the controversy was raising that China is behind all this pandemic, there was an anger and a frustration, and even the accusations were going that they not only spread this virus, but they are also trying to squeeze the supply chain to establish their economic and political hegemony. You must understand, when any society, any country becomes economically powerful, they also become politically so. When they become economically, financially very, very strong, they have people propagating and spreading their ideology. And that's how they establish another kind of imperialism in the new form. And our leadership did realize that a country of the size of India cannot be dependent on China. Whether the rest of the world realized or not, but India's demography, cultural pattern, economic issues, socio-economic issues are far more complex than any other countries in the world. It's a democracy, one of the largest democracy, most populated democracy, and it has got a lot of internal issues. Therefore, Atmanirbhar did not mean whether we are going to be isolated. Atmanirbhar means interdependence. In a globally networked modern world, isolation is not possible. And also, if others don't depend on you, then you depend on them anyway. So dependence has to be shunned. In a network, each node is equally important. Since the world had become unfairly dependent on China, it had to happen. This unfair unequilibrium had to collapse one day. Nature takes its own course. So therefore, Atmanirbhar Bharat, in my opinion, is not a dream, it's a vision. It is not a slogan, it's an inspiration. And it's certainly not an old wine in a new bottle. It's a new wine, new level, new brand, new bottle. And it is transformational. But then transformations don't happen just because of slogans. Slogans can mobilize masses, but they cannot create jobs. For that, you require an ecosystem. For that, you require economic systems, government systems to get aligned together. And that happens by people who work on the ground, those who are called, we call entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur does not mean an owner or a CEO or a founder of a multinational. Every guy who is creative and can create a value which is productive and can be monetized is an entrepreneur. So today, as we can see, when the supply chain issues started emerging, and today again we are facing 1.5 years down the line. Today we are talking about coal shortages, commodity prices have gone up, demand is not there, still prices are going up. That means what? Somewhere somebody is manipulating the supply chain. There are two types of activity in an economy. Either you are a labor supplier or a raw material supplier, or you are a value adder. Now those who add value, they try to dominate those places, those countries where the natural resources are abundant. And for that, you need to create political and economic hegemony. That is what has been done in the past, and that is what China had started doing of late. And no wonder that the Prime Minister, who started with the vision of Make in India, saw its multifarious implications, and fortunately, unfortunately, pandemic accelerated that process, and hence Atmanirbhar Bharat became a vision for this country. But then, how Atmanirbhar Bharat, how Atmanirbharta can be achieved? So I think we need not debate. It is not a compulsion. It is a need. It is not chimerical. It has to be made realistic. We have to realize this dream. It is about autonomy and it is about interdependence. It is not to blackmail. The point is globally interdependence is the key to future of the globe in days to come. If 7 billion people, they have to be taken care of. Then the second question happens, how does a society, how does a country provide livelihood to 140 crore people if they don't have employable skills? And even if they have employable skills, who will employ them? Therefore, you need people with employable skills and you need people who can create employment. And then the economy gets created, the jobs get created. And then what role government can play, should play? Can government provide a livelihood to all 140 people? China was confronted with this question way back in 1978. And the answer was they could not. And therefore, 45 years back, they started doing what India is doing today. They were a country which was not having a democracy. They were an agrarian economy. But they made a great success of food for work program. And using food for work program in their country, which was in abundance, they created the infrastructure which is one of the best and the greatest and the biggest in China today. We have to give their due, and we have to follow what right they have done for their own country and for their own people. No doubt about it that in the modern times, the Chinese success is worth emulation. Now, what is Atmanirbharta? Is it entrepreneurship? Once again, I will touch upon some time back a controversy that, when our leader had said that if you can start your tea shop, you can start your pakoda shop, it is better because you can create employment for 4 people. You can become an entrepreneur. And then an unnecessary political controversy was rigged up saying, will these MBAs, engineers, do you expect them to run tea shops? You are having so many startups today which are having billion-dollar valuation. Zomato, for example, what does Zomato do? They're simply picking up an order from one place and deliver it to the other. Isn't that a peon's job? But then today it has become a company for billion valuation. What is basically a Toyota or maybe this Oyo or all these call taxis and everything? There are so many. Forget these are the big startups. There are many fancy tea shops have come up. Chai Nation, this nation, Pakoda Nation, and that nation, and that nation, and this nation. Now, if a chai shop, a tea shop, and a pakoda shop can be conceived as a business plan, can be scaled up, what is wrong with that? So it's a question of how you look at it. Do you look at pakoda, at just making a pakoda, a small-time job, or you look at an opportunity which can be grown into a multinational? Do you look at Atmanirbharta as a compulsion, as a regressive step, as a forward-looking step? This judgment one has to make. And this judgment can be made by the people of this country only when the academic institutions create that ecosystem in their colleges whereby they start encouraging people for becoming entrepreneurs rather than seeking 4 to 8 to 5 jobs, but encouraging them to become job creators than job seekers. Most of the successful companies were started by the dropouts and in garages. So the first thing that needs to be done is we have to create a system where our engineers, our young people have the skills that are employable. And I think all this is an onset. Atmanirbhar Bharat, in my humble view, is the onset of a new age of entrepreneurship in India. It is the beginning of a long, long journey which has the potential of transforming this nation. There will be obstacles, there will be a lot of negativity around it, but I think citizens of this country have to become mature enough to ask this question whether it is in our interest or not and deal with the issue in such manner. You know, I have referred to 2 points, Atmanirbhar Nari and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So basically, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a new Bharat we are talking about, a self-dependent economy that we are talking about, a self-dependent, self-reliant society we are talking about. And in that, this cannot be achieved unless our citizens, whether they are illiterate or whether they are postdoc, where they are having few thousands from a mudra loan or they are having few billions from a soft bank. They have to have a vision of creating Atmanirbharta first within themselves, around themselves, then only Atmanirbhar Bharat can become a reality. And therefore, in that perspective, Atmanirbhar Nagrik is a brick of a Naya Bharat, which will be an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Our country is predominantly an agrarian economy. 80% people still live in villages. And therefore, the platform that we are conceiving today, along with the colleagues, we realize that we should talk about how can we create entrepreneurship, promote entrepreneurship in B class towns, C class towns, rural towns by promoting the concept of a circular economy. And when we did our research, we found it is extremely, extremely complex and challenging. You would come to know as we go down in this presentation further. But then let me tell you one thing, that what are the pillars of this Atmanirbhar Bharat? The first, a very vibrant rural and migrant economy, a very vibrant MSME. And when I say MSME, I would emphasize on the micro enterprises, not the small and medium even, micro. I would say micro, small, micro enterprises, because the definition of medium enterprises has gone into up to 100 crores of investment, which actually more or less the large companies of today, 99.1%. So when I say MSME, I mean micro, micro, and micro. Micro enterprises is the future. In order to promote entrepreneurship at such a large scale, governance has to be extremely smooth, transparent, and helpful. Nothing can be conceived without a great public infrastructure, which is in the process of getting built in our country, but we have got a long, long way to go. And last but not the least, of course, is education. The new education policy has addressed this issue of promotion of flexibility in entrepreneurship adoption in colleges and with individuals in a great manner. But that's a policy. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a vision. Implementation and execution is the key. And that is where academia, industry, bureaucracy, and political setups have to come together. Then, when so much is at stake, money, opportunity, time, future of country, the independence of country, the enabler forces are values, ethics, and character of the citizens of this country. Those who could be building this economy, Atmanirbhar Bharat, either in the form of a citizen or entrepreneur or a consumer or a promoter, or maybe as a bureaucrat or a politician. So value, ethics, and character is extremely, extremely important, which has to be promoted, encouraged in the society, and also in the academic institutions. Technology is a force of integration. Technology can become a catastrophe if values, ethics, and characters are not in place. I mean, I don't have to give you, there are many examples, It's basically a technology can create a bomb for human destruction, and the same technology can be for a peaceful purpose of power generation. It depends on the value and the character of individual who is deploying this technology. Last but not the least, again, all these get intertwined, integrated. All the forces of value, ethics, character, and technology under the umbrella of entrepreneurship. And therefore, entrepreneurship is extremely, extremely critical and vital initiative, which will have to be promoted across all differences, in spite of all differences, everything that is there. And the future of India lies in having a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem, which Dr. Surya Narayana has already spoken about. So I would say Atmanirbharta is a mindset and should be a way of life. Building a Naya Bharat by making her Atmanirbhar. And Bharat will become Atmanirbhar when an Nagarik will aspire to become Atmanirbhar himself. I will just take you through some of the challenges that we face. If you look at the slide, these are the challenges our country is facing. And when you look at this, everything is there. divisive politics, communal divide, hostile neighbor, natural calamities, and again, man-made calamities, if we may say so, skewed distribution of wealth, intimidating neighbors, unreliable neighbors, dependence on China for inputs to economy, outdated educational system and infrastructure, recession, unemployment, underperforming sectors, nepotism. So tell me, which problem is not there one could conceive of? And amid these challenges, we have to build an entrepreneurial system. We have to create a new Bharat. Can a leader do it alone? No. Everybody has to be a leader in his or her own right. So, India challenges galore, solutions, citizens to explore. And I feel that solution lies in citizens becoming Atmanirbhar Nagrik. And Atmanirbhar Nagrik is a brick that goes in building the foundation and walls of a society. So, here, when we say Atmanirbhar Nagrik is the one who takes into cognizance all the problems that we have spoken about in the previous slide, does not make excuse but converts them into an opportunity. He has to have that resolve. That is where I spoke about character, value, integrity, entrepreneurial system. See, every program, every vision will remain just a vision and in paper unless execution becomes a buzzword. And execution and implementation has to be the responsibility of each and every individual depending on the role he or she is playing. So, Atmanirbhar Nagrik is the solution to India's myriad problems. Hence, Atmanirbhar Bharat, it has got three elements: Atmanirbhar economy, Atmanirbhar Samaj, Atmanirbhar Nagrik. Now, what does Atmanirbhar Samaj means? I think I've spoken about entrepreneurship. So now it is not just entrepreneurship. Our society will have to go under entrepreneurial revolution. I mean, the way you had a freedom revolution and freedom movement, everybody in the society, from a parent to a teacher, from a doctor to a bureaucrat, from a mohalla level leader to a prime minister, will have to recognize entrepreneurship as the and the only solution to India's many problems. Number one, when we do that, education in the academic institutions will have to become more and more solution-centric. It will have to be simplified. It will have to be made flexible, which has been largely addressed in the new education policy. So the responsibility lies in the hands of the academic leaders to implement the new education policy in both letter, more in spirit. Then, of course, technology. Today, we don't have one technology. We have plethora of technology. We have multiple layers of technology. Today in our country, a bullock cart and a spaceship, they're all coexisting. And our socio-economic conditions are so complex, you cannot get rid of them immediately anyway. So as long as they are there, they have to coexist. So great deal of innovation is required. That how do we adopt and adapt ourselves to a technology in this country? How do we leverage our vibrant demography? A lot of people, majority of people in our country, we are one of the youngest nations. And of course, Atmanirbharta is a feeling of Atmasamman. So, here, the elements of Atmanirbhar economy will be infrastructure, system, demand. And one very important thing I spoke about technology, which my friend Prabhakar Chaurasia will deal at length, is Industry 4.0, is nothing but integration, how those all the technology of yesteryears and today are being integrated into a solution for the society is what you will see. And definitely, this platform is about training. Training does not mean a classroom training, it means a training the way it can happen. We are all trainers in our own way. I have been a trainer for the last 33 years. So wherever you are, when you teach even a word to anybody or letter, you are a trainer. Training does not mean an 8-hour training program. We have to change the paradigms in the society in whatever we do. Atmanirbhar Nagarika, you have to be as much responsible and aware of your duties as you are about your rights. You have to foster and build your character as you build your skills. And then, when our Prime Minister has spoken about Atmanirbhar Bharat, when he has given a vision of Atmanirbharta, he has also identified, and work is going afoot and is apace, at a great pace, which is village-centric. You know, it's all about trying to establish a circular economy, particularly at the villages. The areas that have been identified are mechanization of agriculture, which is very, very primitive in our country. Conservation of water resources, recycling of wastewater, you know, water efficient agriculture, development of low water intensive seeds, cost effective technology, because water is going to be one of the very, very scary resources and scarce resources. People say that the next world war is going to be for water. I don't know whether it will happen or not. But today itself we are seeing a very erratic pattern across the globe because the way we have played with the climate. So water recycling technology, another area, uses of crop residue. Professor Kelan Raju has been doing a fantastic work on salvation and of lakes, restoration of lakes, recycling and reuse of the water hyacinth, how to increase the soil health and better the soil health. He will, I think, explain to you when he makes his presentation. Our leakage in supply chain. Another area, you know, we are talking about, you know, this ethanol blending, and then biofuel uses to reduce the carbon emission and also in dependence on, gasoline. Then value addition. So you can see that all these things, all these aspects, you know, the ground of fruition for them is a village. Typically, a village is capable of housing all these solutions, all these areas. And only when these areas are focused in a village, we can have an Atmanirbhar village in which a Kisan will be working, who will be an Atmanirbhar Nagarika, and he will be the building block of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Again, how our Prime Minister has visualized to bring technology to the villages and into agriculture. We are talking about, you know, application and uses of drone. In fact, for your information, I must share with you that 100 districts in the country have been given permission to use drones for agriculture. Apart from, you know, the security, you know, all those things, but especially, and I am associated with a company which is into pest spraying using drones. They have given me a feedback that per acre, you know, a lot of farmers have been saving 1,000 to 1,500 rupees, and less as a quantity of the pesticide is being sprayed. So a chemical overload is going down and the cost is coming down. Reuses of plastics, energy efficiency, efficient housing and lighting, solar energy, management of e-waste. So you can see that technology and agriculture, all this combined together, are the basic constituents of creating, with the help of a Atmanirbhar Nagrik and an Atmanirbhar village, an Atmanirbhar India. Another focus in all that we have spoken about is, as far as the key focus in future is going to be these technologies, and which are in the focus of Atmanirbhar Bharat program, which is being detailed out. So we are talking about solar energy, wind energy, all sorts of energy. Because without energy, our society cannot survive. Most of the resources, they are using energy. So we have to conserve energy. We have to become more and more energy efficient. We have to save our soil. We have to enrich our forests. We have to capture the carbon. Professor Raju will tell you that what is the condition of our soils today and what work he has been doing. And that is where a great opportunity lies for all of us in creating entrepreneurs at that level. Then, how this technology is going to be integrated, our friend Prabhakar Chaurasia will talk about under the platform of, when he speaks about Industry 4.0, how these Industry 4.0 is going to integrate with the help of all these technologies is what we will see. Basically, it's a collaboration of 6 technologies along with people. Computer vision, 5th generation IoT, artificial, blockchain, etc., etc. So you see, today, from a very, very primitive level, we are talking about a very high level of technological advancement. That means we are talking about fundamental change. Our DNA has to be changed. And our DNA, who's our DNA? A person living in the village is our DNA. Our Kisan is a DNA. Our students, our boys in a DNA. They should have access and understanding of these technologies. And that is the challenge lying in front of the companies and the government, to simplify all this technology so that execution can be simplified. It can be made easy. If execution is not going to be implemented, is not going to be simplified, I'm sorry to say that Atmanirbhar Bharat will remain a distant dream. And that is where I say we need to understand that what are the micro constituents, ingredients of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and how ready are we to leverage that. I will conclude my presentation with the last slide and just want to tell you how complex is our task. Now, all that I have spoken in the previous slide, the Hyther 2, it gets summed up here. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 multiplied by 5. So basically, if you are left out, if anything has to be done in a village for a rural transformation, 25 departments of government at the central and state level, they have to coordinate. Now, you can have a look. Agriculture, how many departments we are having? Agriculture and farmer welfare. Chemicals, fertilizer. Commerce and industry. Consumer affairs, distribution, environment, Jal Shakti, education, health, labor and employment, MSME, energy, renewal, Panchayati Raj, rural development, tourism, tribal welfare, women and child. So unless, and they are having so many overlapping programs, it is really a maze, is a labyrinth, is a bhul bhulaiya. A Aam Nagarik cannot negotiate and navigate through all these departments. And that is why most of the programs in our country have failed, because these departments have been working in silos. Our endeavor, and we know that a clear focus and a strategic planning is required in order to make this department come together and function together. What schemes do we have? So we are working on building a system whereby we will develop a program and implement a program as a model in one of the villages, we are in talk with the government agencies, those who have told us to make a proposal. We are in the process of making a proposal whereby all the programs and schemes of all these 25 ministries, their overlaps can be mapped. What programs are there? What are the other institutions like banks, etc., etc. So eventually, we will create a system whereby a prospective person who wants to become an entrepreneur or an Atmanirbhar Nagrik who can approach us, and we will help them to design a program, basically a project which is interrelated to all these departments, package the whole thing, train them into it, get them finances, do the hand holding, build the total system as a POC in one place and then replicate as we move on. As you can see, it is not a small task. It is not a simple task. This is something governments must be doing. But today, government is having its own challenges, and they are inviting agencies like us to come with innovation so that we can identify the problems in the governance and we can offer a solution. A lot of technology will have to be used in this, a lot of training will have to be used, a lot of hand holding has to be used. And by making this into a reality, we can create a truly enabling entrepreneurial system, which will help build an Atmanirbhar Nagrik, to create and build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. We propose to facilitate a circular and self-reliant economy in the villages and the non-metro cities by promoting the principle of an Atmanirbhar Nagrik is the basic building block of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. We believe a citizen can become an Atmanirbhar Nagrik if he or she pursues entrepreneurship. Through this, we aim to encourage, promote and facilitate the creation of an Atmanirbhar village and a local economy. That is our motto, that is our mission, and this is what we want to achieve. Now, friends, it is now or never. If we don't have Atmanirbhar Bharat now, let me tell you one thing. We will fall prey, whether I see or you see or we live to see this or not. I think imperialist designs and forces have always been acting in the past, now and in future. So if we have to retain our economic independence, we have to become more and more self-reliant, which means interdependence. Interdependent means nobody dominates us. We do a lot of value-added activities. We have a favorable balance in our trade. It should not be lopsided. As much we import, that much we should export. Not the raw material, but the value-added stuff, which is a result of skill and entrepreneurship. I think that's all from me, and we would request to have your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Madhusudan Jinjawala, sir, for your valuable information regarding this Impact Lecture Series. As you have been with us since past 1 year, and we have done a series of webinars regarding Atmanirbhar Nagrik, Atmanirbhar MSME, Atmanirbhar Bharat. All these have been imparting knowledge on our learners, and also your contribution to this institution, Center for Skill Development, has made a huge impact on our journey. And as you have stressed much on this Atmanirbhar Nagrik, this has a huge transformative change for becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat. As said, being a citizen, you should be responsible, you should be having a value, and building the character with integrity. All these things, a citizen when developed, the town or the village will be developed. In the consequences, the country will be automatically developed. With all this, and you have weaved the knowledge in the learner's mind, and moving on to the